Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining us from. Greetings from the National Productivity Development Department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security here in Lusaka, Zambia. I am your moderator, Yvonne Kanenga Nawila, Acting Chief Productivity and Quality Improvement Officer. The National Productivity Development Department is established to promote productivity in all sectors of the economy to enhance economic growth and improve the standard of living of the people. Among the services of the department are productivity monitoring and research, occupational assessment and productivity promotion through consultancy, training, installation of productivity tools and approaches, promotion of workplace cooperation, and productivity support to micro, small, and medium enterprises. Today we are glad to present the Productivity Zed360 Expert Talk virtual program to be launched by the Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Brenda Tambatamba MP. The program, Productivity Zed360, entails the desire for the ministry to fulfill its mandate of promoting and translating productivity into themes that are consistent with Zambia's developmental agenda, strategies, and socio-economic structures, hence ZED, and 360 implying the edge to holistically promote productivity, continuous improvement to attain excellency that will spur individuals, institutions, and the nation to work in a concerted manner to raise productivity and competitive levels in the country. The program will, among other things, promote networking with various experts in productivity and quality as we implement the National Productivity Policy. I wish to state that this is an interactive program on YouTube. Simply type your name, your institution, and country you are joining us in the chat box. After the presentation, your comments and questions will be responded to during the 30 minutes plenary. This is a 1 hour, 30 minutes program. So today is the launch of this program by the minister, and it is going to be hosted by Mr. Cyprian Mayamba, who is the National Productivity Development Director and is also the president of the Pan-African Productivity Association, PAPA. It is now my singular honor and privilege to invite Mr. Cyprian Mayamba to share insights on productivity perspective on the African continent. Mr. Mayamba, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, Madam Yvonne Nawila, for giving me the floor to be able to make some remarks at this Productivity Z360 Expert Talk. I wish to recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Brenda Tambatamba MP, who is gracing this event. I wish to recognize the presence of the Acting Permanent Secretary, Mr. Zakaria Luhanga, who is also present in this forum, in this discussion this morning. And I also want to welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from different parts of the world as we launch this talk. I must mention this is the first of its kind being launched in Zambia, and as the National Productivity Development Department under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, we are very proud to be associated with this historic landmark occasion. My discussion this morning will be to set the scene. And so I'll be looking at the global and regional perspectives to productivity. And so I'll be making a short presentation to just highlight some of the key occurrences in the world of productivity. And my discussion today is going to be divided into three main areas. I'll be looking at first of all, an introduction to productivity, and then I'll also be looking also at some global and regional perspectives to productivity. So I'll be sharing with you some very, very important statistics that are going to give us a picture of what is happening globally, what is happening regionally, and also what is happening within our country, Zambia. And then I'll also be able to draw some lessons or conclusions from such a discourse. So to start with, I will begin by first of all introducing productivity. And so it's always probably a very good starting point for us to begin to define what productivity is. In fact, when we were developing the National Productivity Policy, one of the aims of the policy was actually to come up with what you may call as a working definition of productivity. And so we came up with a number of definitions of productivity, and one was arithmetic, which is a traditional definition of productivity, implying that productivity is a ratio of output to input. But then we also came up with other definitions of productivity for purposes of clarifying what productivity is. And the one I'll share with you this morning is the one that refers to productivity as a combination of both being efficient and being effective. But you can see from the slide that being efficient and effective on its own is perhaps not enough. We've also added the issue of attitudes. As you can see, the mathematical arrangement of that equation, meaning that if the attitudes are 0, it means that it nullifies everything you'd have done with your efficiency and effectiveness, meaning that in the scheme of how we've couched productivity, mindset and attitudes or culture is very, very critical because it enables the gains to be sustained and it enables the gains to be able to grow on a continuous basis. So our definition of productivity here implies that we want to see how well resources are utilized to create value. And not only that, we also want to see the extent to which the results meet the desired goals in terms of the impacts. In other words, it will not be enough for us to be efficient, but we have to ensure that as we are being efficient, we're also adding value and we are creating that impact. But most importantly, we are saying productivity is really at the end of the day a state of mind. And that's a determination that we need to improve on yesterday's performance and to do even better. So we must be in a spirit of continuous improvement. And this gives us hope because at whatever stage we are, even as a country, it gives us hope that we can be able to improve. Now, also very quickly, why is it that productivity has even warranted us to have a policy, a national policy, to outline how the country is going to pursue various measures to improve its levels of productivity? There are a number of benefits that productivity gives us, and I'll share with you just a few of them. The first one is that productivity is most significant, especially as it relates to the workplace. And because statistically we know that most of the household incomes are actually derived from employment through wages. In fact, it's a well-known fact that in the first world country, in the heavily industrialized countries, about 80% of household incomes actually come from wages because they have much higher levels of employment. Whereas in the poorer countries, it's only about 20 to 30% of the household incomes which come from wages, meaning that there's a yawning gap of almost 70 to 80% of households who are deprived of incomes because they do not have jobs. And so what productivity does as a starting point is that in the workplace, it leads to creation of value. And as value is created, enterprises will be able to grow, become profitable, become sustainable, and therefore they will have the ability to pay decent wages. So productivity has got this one advantage of providing decent wages. And with decent wages, we know that it leads to improved livelihoods of the workers. And also leads to safe and health working conditions in the workplace, because some of the techniques that we advocate for use in enterprises are those that help us be able to improve the safety and the health environment of the workers. But on a large scale, productivity has also got the effect of leading to competitive prices, because we are being efficient, we are being more effective. In the long run, productivity will have a positive impact on the prices in the sense that the cost of doing business will be lowered and the prices on the market will also be able to reduce, therefore making the goods and services much more affordable for the consumers and therefore for the benefit of the citizenry. For the enterprise, of course, it leads to increased profits. And we know with increased profits, we'll be able to grow as enterprises and therefore be able to create much more jobs. And not only jobs, but also jobs that are said to be productive jobs. And what we mean by productive jobs, it is those jobs where the workers are getting decent wages. By the way, there's a difference between just having a job and having a productive jobs. So in terms of statistics, we'll say those that have productive jobs are those who are in employment and they earn sufficient wages to be able to meet their daily needs. They are not what we call the working poor. They are those that are in employment, but they're actually poor because they live from paycheck to paycheck, all right, without any sort of additional incomes to improve their livelihoods. But also for the economy as a whole, productivity is actually very, very useful because it leads to national competitiveness. And if we are aspiring as a country as we are, that by 2030, we should be a prosperous middle-income nation where our people are going to live a very good standard of living. Productivity is one of those enablers which can enable us to reach that mark. And so these are some of the reasons why it has warranted that we should have a national policy on productivity and why as the Minister of Labor and Social Security, we are stepping up in efforts aimed at improving the country's levels of productivity. But let me now give a global perspective. Now, this is not just a subject that is important to us as a country, Zambia. But let me show you on the global stage how other countries are performing. Globally, I'll give a synopsis of the 5 best performing countries in terms of labor productivity as of 2021. Globally, you could tell from the presentation that Luxembourg has the highest labor productivity. Luxembourg is a country in the center of Europe, very small in size, but look at the levels of labor productivity. That's about 136.45 US dollars output per man hour, followed by Ireland, followed by the Virgin Islands, followed by Singapore, and then Norway. So you can tell that out of the global picture, out of the 189 countries that the ministry has monitored, Zambia is currently ranked at around 155. Of course, we still have quite a lot to go, a lot of ground to cover, but this gives us hope that at least we are not the last in terms of the pecking order. But obviously, this gives us this should give us more motivation to even do well. Now, what is most interesting is that when it comes to the SADC region, the analysis shows that in terms of the SADC region of all the 16 member countries of SADC, and to just bring this home, excluding Seychelles, for which data is readily not available at the moment, you'll find that Zambia is ranked number 8. And in the region, the SADC region, Mauritius ranks number 1 at 24.76 US dollars output per man hour, followed by South Africa and Botswana. And you find that the top 3 countries also have labor productivity in excess of 20 US dollars per man hour, which the International Labour Organization actually advises that this is an indicator of a productive country above 20 US dollars. Zambia is currently at 4.55 US dollars per man hour, which, as you can see, is falling short of the average of about 9 US dollars for the SADC region. And so you could tell that the lowest in the region is a Democratic Republic of Congo at 1.68 US dollars per man hour. This also indicates that there's room for the country to be able to improve on its labor productivity. Now, the key lessons from this, very, very quick synopsis for us to take away from this discussion is that you see on the global stage, the countries with the most productive countries globally are also some of the most competitive economies in the world. Take an example of Singapore, which in 2017 actually had an excess on their budget, had a surplus on their budget, leading them to actually pay out citizen bonuses for simply being a productive country. Countries like Norway, we all know that they are some of the most competitive countries in the world. So there's actually now, you can see a very clear link or correlation between being productive and being competitive. As well as on the region, you can tell that countries such as Mauritius, South Africa, and Botswana have higher labor productivity levels in the SADC region. But also, you notice that these are some of the countries with well-established productivity centers. The South African Productivity Center is more than 50 years old. Mauritius has well-established and very strong productivity center, as well as Botswana. So these are national institutions that have been set up to promote productivity in these countries, and you can certainly see what the results are. And you can tell that Zambia, sitting at number 8 in the Southern region, is of course falling short of the SADC regional average of about $9.18 per man-hour in terms of labor productivity. But also, this validates the need for our country, Zambia, to take deliberate steps to realign the economy. And this obviously is provided for in our blueprint, which is the 8th National Development Plan, as well as the National Productivity Policy. So we just need to step up these efforts to ensure that we, too, in the SADC region can begin to rank among some of the most highly productive countries. And this, therefore, shall be the tone of this talk in terms of how do we get Zambia perhaps into the top 3? How do we ensure that Zambia will now sit amongst the most productive countries, not only in the SADC region, but as well as on the African continent? In fact, the president has already pronounced himself, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to this particular fact that we are now in the Champions League. So we now have to fly amongst the eagles on the global stage. And for us to be able to do that, we would have to be a productive and competitive nation. Now, in conclusion, we're saying, productivity does not just happen by accident. It is as a result of commitment to excellence. And hence the theme of this talk, continuous improvement, excellence through continuous improvement. Because we are going to always insist throughout these discussions that we pursue excellence as a nation. Because it does not happen by accident. Deliberate steps will have to be taken. To pursue excellence, we'll have to have intelligent planning and focused effort, as well put by one Paul Joe Mayer. With that, Madam Moderator, I thank you for giving me the floor to be able to share those insights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayamba, for those insightful statistics that you have shared with the participants this morning. So this is good enough for us now to begin to brainstorm and ask questions and comments as to how we are going to change the scenario. We are still discussing, and at this particular point, allow me to invite the Acting Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Zachariah Luhanga, to give his remarks as a result of the presentation that has been given. So thank you very much. Mr. Luhanga, sir.
Thank you, Madam Moderator Yvonne. First and foremost, I wish also to recognize the presence of our Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Brenda Tambatamba, whom I'll be calling upon shortly to officially launch this very important program. Allow me also to recognize the presence of Labor Commissioner and the directors, in particular Director, National Productivity Development Department, who is actually the host in the ministry, Director Mayamba. And most importantly, all the people who have joined us, because this program will not be a success if people do not join in. So we value your time, and most importantly is your participation. We hope when it comes to interaction, we'll be able to actually interact so that we learn lessons and see how best we can come out of this status quo. However, before I call upon the minister to officially launch, I just want to say this, dear colleagues, and just to quote what the president always says, statistics do not lie. That's very important. The presentation which Director Mayamba gave to all of us, it is clearly showing that countries that are doing very well, there's something that they have done which we ought to learn from. And that is the issue of having the productivity centers. South Africa, Mauritius, Botswana, we have been told. We want to come closer to home, much as their statistics even beyond, but just in our region here. The good news, though, is that I want to state, as the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, we have made strides worth noting. The first is that we have come up with, of course, the policy which the director talked about, but also, as we speak right now, a CAB memo is at Cabinet, en route to Cabinet itself, Cabinet Office, en route to Cabinet itself, so that we can have now the law, productivity law. And we hope at that stage we'll be able now to see how best can we compare. We are using the word compare because at some point you just need to use the law to have things move. And there's something which maybe caught my attention when Director Mayamba said that efficiency and effectiveness may not be complete if there's one thing lacking, and that is attitude. I think for us, for now, we need to reflect on that one. We have seen institutions that have put in place measures to ensure that people log in when they report for work. So you have someone who reports exactly maybe at even 7:30, logs in, sits in his or her office, knocks off at even 17:30. So the logging system is very perfect. So in terms of efficiency, that person, effectiveness, is reporting in time. But what is it that that person is doing behind the computer? So that brings the issue of attitude. So you can report in time. The system can show logging in time. What is it that you are doing during that period? So I'm sure I will look forward to more interaction as we will be opening up these productivity talks on monthly basis. So dear colleagues, allow me at this point in time to call upon the Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Brenda Tambatamba, to officially launch this very important program. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Acting PS. And may I also convey a warm welcome to all members who are participating virtually. It is my honor and privilege to officially launch the Virtual Productivity Zed360 Expert Talk. This platform is meant to be a convergence of expert ideas from different perspectives on how we can transform Zambia as a global leader. The main aim of the talk, which will be held henceforth virtually every first Tuesday of each month, is to raise awareness on productivity, shape experts' experiences in mainstreaming productivity in various sectors of the economy, as well as to contribute to the effective implementation of the National Productivity Policy. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this talk, Excellency Through Continuous Improvement, aligns perfectly with the Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema's call for the transformation of the Zambian economy. Simply put, the President's marching orders to all of us is to seek, on a continuous basis, better and more efficient ways of transacting business, and even more critical, achieving improved outcomes. Therefore, the launch could not have come at any better time than now, when just a month ago, the government of the Republic of Zambia reached an agreement on a comprehensive debt treatment with its official creditors under the G20 Common Framework. Ladies and gentlemen, the landmark achievement of an agreement with external creditors of Zambia's debt should provide even more resolve for the country to enhance its productivity. There is need now, more than ever before, for Zambians to look inwards for increased revenues, prudent management of resources, full and efficient exploitation of our natural resources, increased value addition, and enhanced competitiveness. These are not only ingredients of a robust economy, but also a progressive people that we aspire to be. Therefore, it is equally gratifying to note that the focus of government during the medium term will be on advancing the government's development agenda of stimulating economic growth by attracting private sector investments, boosting production and productivity, improving public service efficiency, and mobilizing public resources for development. This will no doubt promote job creation and enhance livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted that the above aspirations resonate well with the aims of the National Productivity Policy, which I hereby outline. A, providing a mechanism for facilitating consensus on the interpretation and the need for increased productivity in all sectors of the economy. B, serving as a means for strengthening the existing institutions mandated to promote productivity to make them more inclusive and effectively serve as centers of excellency. C, acting as a catalyst for motivating individuals and organizations in all sectors of the economy to work in a concerted manner in efforts aimed at raising national productivity levels. D, providing a comprehensive coordination mechanism for stakeholders working in the area of productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, government continues to be concerned with the low levels of productivity in the country, which, according to the Zambia Productivity Report published by my ministry, contracted by 21% between 2019 and 2020. The report further shows that in terms of the value added per hour in kwacha terms, real estate industry recorded the highest labor productivity of 161 kwacha and 52 ngwe per hour, followed by information and communication industry with 157 kwacha, 22 ngwe per hour. The industries with the lowest labor productivity were other services at 4 kwacha, 1 ngwe per hour, and agriculture, forestry, and fisheries industries at 7 kwacha, 18 ngwe per hour. Only 5 industries registered positive growth in labor productivity, namely electricity, gas, steam and air conditioning, mining and quarrying, water supply, sewerage and waste management, real estate, as well as information and communication. In terms of growth rate, electricity, gas, steam and air conditioning industry registered labor productivity growth of 319.68% in 2020, whilst the agriculture, forestry and fisheries industry experienced contraction of labor productivity growth by 15.78%, despite being the industry with the highest employment levels of 640,714. Mining and quarrying industry had productivity growth of 35.6%. These statistics, though negative for some industries, must spur us to action. On its part, government will continue to provide the necessary leadership and an enabling environment As a starting point, the 8th National Development Plan has provided a blueprint of the country's transformation agenda. Most importantly, the emphasis on local solutions has demonstrated through major strides scored in the decentralization process. The most notable being the progressive expansion of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, from 1.6 million in 2021 to 25.7 million in 2022 and to 28.3 million in 2023. This is meant to spur economic development, hence accelerate job creation and improve the livelihoods of the Zambian people. With this measure, more of our youth are now able to engage in various economic activities such as making of school desks, block making, trading, and construction, among other ventures. Government expects the constituencies through local value chains and enterprise promotion to create millions of jobs. We also expect that for these jobs to be sustainable, our people must adopt a productive and innovative mindset. In other words, we must begin to think of new ways of resolving the barriers that prevent us from achieving our key performance targets at various levels in our governance structures, from household level to the national level. What will be most critical in all this is the realization that solutions to the majority of our problems lie in our culture of work. Ladies and gentlemen, going forward, there is need to put our efforts together to improve our productivity as a people. I therefore call upon all the workers in the country to embrace a positive attitude towards work. Equally, I call upon the employers to provide an enabling environment for enhanced productivity. I also call upon experts in various fields to provide solutions and suggestions on how to resolve some of the country's labor market challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, with these few remarks, I now declare that the Productivity Zed360 Expert Talk is officially launched. I wish you all very productive deliberations as I look forward to a very candid discussion on the subject of labor productivity. I thank you all.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Minister of Labour and Social Security, Brenda Tambatamba MP, for launching this program and providing insights on Zambia's labour productivity performance. This is very important for us as we start this program. As the Minister has said in her remarks, this will be a monthly program which will be brought to us every Tuesday of the month. So please stay tuned for more of such discussions. We are now getting into plenary, and I have tried to collect one or two insights from the participants. But before I do that, just allow me to give a reflection of the presentations that have been given by our presenters today. In the first discussion, Mr. Cyprian Mayamba gave some global and regional perspective of productivity performance for productivity performance of Zambia. I think we saw those statistics which were emphasized and re-echoed by the acting permanent secretary, Mr. Zakaria Luhanga, that numbers indeed don't lie. The two have actually provided a platform for us to begin to think and deliberate on how best we can raise the productivity levels that have been cited as low in Zambia. The minister has further given the statistics and named different sectors' performance in terms of labor productivity. What that now means to each one of us is that how do we contribute to changing these numbers? So I will get back to my presenters and just get some few reflections on what the minister has said in light of various low labor productivity, as well as the the age for us to adopt a productive mindset. So in practice, how does that sit? What do we need to do? So before I actually read the comments from the participants on this channel, allow me to give the two participants that are with me here, Mr. Cyprian Mayamba and Mr. Zachariah Luhanga, to give their reflection on the launch speech that has been given by the Minister of Labor and Social Security. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayamba, sir, I'll start with you, and then I'll conclude with Mr. Luhanga, and then get to the comments that have been given by our participants.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for setting the scene for us by launching the talk, and also by declaring that this talk will now be held every first Tuesday of every month. For us, that too is a marching order to ensure that we bring on board various experts that are going to speak to various subjects that are related to productivity in various sectors. And so I'll probably confine my discussion to the statement by the Honorable Minister that is related to the performance of the various industries, and probably the Acting Permanent Secretary would also speak to the issues of the decentralization program, which the Minister has made reference to. Now, in terms of performance, you note that out of the 19 industries that we've been tracking as a ministry in terms of labor productivity over time, and by the way, we've been tracking and we have statistics available for the past 10 years, which can be sourced from the ministry website for purposes of those that are undertaking research or those that would want to understand Zambia's productivity profile. You notice that the productivity levels of the country have been fluctuating over time, and took a huge stumble in the period 2019 and 2020 for various reasons that some of you may already know. You know that we had a global crisis in the form of the COVID-19 pandemic, but that also, you note that it correlates with the other economic indicators around that period. But what is important to note as well is that, and very, very concerning, as the Minister alluded to, is the low levels of productivity in some of our major industries such as agriculture, which means that despite employing a huge number of people, more than 640,000 people, agriculture still remains to be still remains to have very low levels of labor productivity, which also indicates that the wages in this particular industry are also on the lower side, and that though being a very significant industry to our economy, that it perhaps may not be contributing to the levels that we expect it to contribute. And hence you can see in the national product, in the 8th National Development Plan, agriculture has been prioritized, and a lot of measures have already been put in place to enhance production and productivity in this industry. You also notice that in terms of the factors that have led to low levels of productivity in some of the industries include low levels of technical skills, and you can tell in most of those industries that are not performing very well that they are one, labor intensive, but that the quality of the labor that we have in those industries is deficient in terms of mostly technical skills. So that also speaks to the need as a country for us to be able to step up in the development of the necessary skills that are going to propel some of those industries forward. Examples I've just given are manufacturing, agriculture, where there's need for more technical skills. Then you're also going to notice that during the same period, there are industries that perform very, very well, such as electricity, gas, and steam. Industries such as information, banking, and telecommunications. Those performed very, very well because during that time, there was more orientation towards the use of virtual platforms, of online banking, and the accessing of various services through online means due to the COVID pandemic. So that also gave us a glimpse of what potential lies in this particular new field of using online means to deliver services or to be able to provide various goods and services to the public. So that is another very, very important observation that we need to make. In fact, in 2019, the International Labour Organization published its centenary publication when the organization had reached its 100 years of existence. What the publication was called The Future of Work, in which it was, I would say, predicted that in future the world of work is going to change, and that the world of work will now become probably much more advanced. In some industries, work will be able to be done remotely, and we saw that during the pandemic, and that workers will become much more autonomous. In other words, they'll have to have much more control over their work, determining even the sort of tasks that they will take and they will do at different times of their working day. So what the International Labour Organization in that publication was basically bringing out was that there's a need for us to adopt workplace practices, okay, that are going to help us or enhance productivity. Like the acting permanent secretary had made reference to, that what was important was just not to be present at the workplace, but that the question was, what impact were you having at the workplace? Now that we have various technologies in place, these technologies must actually work at raising the levels of productivity in our workplaces. In most service-oriented organizations, a lot of technology is being applied, either to provide services or to obtain information or to relay information to the customers. And so those have to be used to full effect. An example is what we are having today. We're having this talk virtually, and we're reaching hundreds of people otherwise would not have managed to reach had we insisted on having a physical meeting. So all those are strategies that can help us have much more impact. But the rallying call from the minister's speech is that we would have to do something. Again, we will not have to just sit, but we'll have to do something as a country. We'll have to do something as institutions. But most importantly, we also have to do something as individuals, because it starts with us as individuals. And therefore, it translates into our institutions, and therefore as a country. So we have this collective responsibility, and we all have a role to play. We're not going to sit back and say it perhaps is the responsibility of another person, or maybe the responsibility of those in leadership. We all have a role to play. That's what I could say for now, moderator. Probably the acting permanent secretary. Sir, you may wish to touch on some of the issues the minister raised in her statement.
Thank you, Director Mayamba. Well, first and foremost, I also want to join you in thanking the minister for this launch. And the minister made very serious pronouncements in her opening speech. And what comes to me to mind very quickly is what perhaps you have said. And I just want to say this. Those sectors that performed very well, according to the productivity report, what lessons can we learn? Then those sectors that did not do well also, what is it that they did which contributed to us not doing well? Contracting by 21%, that should be very worrying for us as a country. Very quickly, moderator, because I know you also want to give an opportunity to people to ask so to interact. I just want to touch on one major policy pronouncement by the New Dawn government of CDF. From 1.6 million in 2021 to 28.3 million this year. And when we say this is a major milestone, dear colleagues, how many constituencies do we have in Zambia? 156. So to each of these, you multiply that amount. So all what we are saying, yes, there have been issues to do with implementation. The beauty is government is well ahead. The CDF Constituency Development Fund bill is now before the relevant authorities to ensure that we unlock those issues which contribute to us not doing what we are supposed to do. So basically, what we are saying is there will be economic development in each of these constituencies dotted across the country. As from Ministry of Labor, what we are saying, decent work is very critical. Whatever is happening, like what was earlier highlighted by Director Mayamba, we don't want anyone to abrogate labor laws, even as we do these activities, because the laws are there to govern. The laws are there to help us ensure that we deliver to the expectations of our Zambians. So for now, moderator, I wish to say we leave a bit of room just to get one or two in case of feedback from our dear colleagues out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Acting PS and Mr. Mayamba, for the reflection on the Minister's speech during the launch of this program. I have some few questions and concerns from the participants, and the first one is just an acknowledgement that productivity is a mindset change issue. And our sister Sylvia Mwansa emphasizes this and says that we need to seek on a continuous basis ways of improving productivity. The question comes from Eastern Province. What has happened to the establishment of the National Productivity Committees in the province? The next question that we will look at in this first phase of the plenary is pertaining to the minister's call to improve productivity in this country. And the question says that the minister's call requires a program follow-up on policy pronouncement and dialogue with industries. What is the ministry doing in that regard? We have another question that is also acknowledging that productivity is actually a serious issue, and the mindset on productivity is of serious concern. And so the question is, do we have efforts in mainstreaming productivity in the education sector? The last part of the question in this first phase of the plenary is that we need to marry knowledge management and productivity. So we'll ask my presenters to give some responses to these questions that have been given by our participants. So I will call upon Mr. Mayamba, who has actually given us a direction on the ministry's productivity agenda. Mr. Mayamba, sir, maybe you may take on one or two questions that you have picked from the 5 that I have given from our participants.
Thank you very much to hear that our dear participants have been following very keenly. And in fact, they've brought out very pertinent issues that are going to help shape the discussions that we will be having. Madam Moderator, I want to begin by speaking to the issue of the efforts relating to the education sector. Yes, indeed. The education sector has a very big role to play in the country's productivity improvement efforts. And in fact, in the National Productivity Policy, measures have been provided for to mainstream productivity in the education sector, including in the long run, embedding productivity techniques in education curricula. But also, in relation to this, you may wish to know that the Ministry of Labor and Social Security also provides what are called some occupational psychological services. So we offer what we call as psychometric tests, which include, among other psychometric tests, aptitude tests, which are used in the selection of employees for work or for training. So it helps us to be able to choose the right candidates to be placed in employment. But also, as it relates to the education sector, we also offer career guidance and counseling services. And for this, we work very closely with our colleagues in the Ministry of Education, who also have a career guidance unit that is in charge of the career guidance teachers in all the schools. And we, in this respect, provide services that can help our young people to choose the careers that are best suited to their abilities. So for those that are in school, the Ministry of Education does take care of those. But for those that have already left school, and by the time they are leaving school, they are not very sure of which careers they will go into, those can come to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, and will be able to help them determine the careers that are best suited to their abilities. So the instruments will show you which careers, in the order, the first choice, second, and the third choice, from which you can make a decision. But most importantly, I must mention that the Ministry of Labor and Social Security is collaborating with other ministries and institutions to be able to help in mainstreaming productivity in all areas of life, and not just the education sector. Because, you know, even before you go to begin school, life begins in our households. And it is from birth, they say, up to around the age of 12 that most of our character is formed. And so what the Honorable Minister mentioned regarding our attitude towards work, our mindset, much of it is formed in our households. And therefore, we're looking at mainstreaming productivity in all areas of life, from the time somebody is born up to the time somebody leaves this earth. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Labor is one of those ministries that actually takes care of the welfare of people from birth to the grave. Because when you are born, you're required to have good health, and the Ministry of Labor also does provide services that are related to that. As you may know, the National Health Management Insurance Authority is under the Ministry of Labor, which works closely with other institutions and ministries within government to be able to help provide health care to all the citizens, as well as when you begin your work up to the time you retire, even beyond retirement, through social security. So just to buttress the point that our interest, of course, is very much linked to the Ministry of Education and ensuring that the education sector, but even beyond that, productivity is very, very critical. Secondly, I wish also to make reference to the question that is relating to the national productivity committees in the provinces. Yes, thanks a lot for bringing that in from Eastern Province. The national productivity policy provides for establishment of productivity coordinating committees in the provinces. And the ministry has engaged the relevant authorities to be able to designate the provincial development coordinating committees as the bodies that shall coordinate productivity matters at province level. And in the third and fourth quarters of this year, the ministry will be providing orientation of the provincial development coordinating committees to be able to assign and dedicate this role of coordinating productivity in the provinces. It is based on good guidance that we need not set up additional structures or committees in the provinces, but rather utilize the very effective committees that are existing in the form of provincial development coordinating committees. So expecting before the end of this year, we should be able to have the committees fully oriented, and they should begin to undertake their work. Madam Moderator, maybe I also can make reference to the question that talks about knowledge management. Yes, indeed. One of the emphasis that we make when we are promoting productivity is on the need that we should be learning. We should be learning institutions. The institutions should be able to be learning organizations. In other words, they should be able to grow based on the lessons that they pick. In the same way as a country, we should learn from the past for us to be able to make a brighter future. And so knowledge is very, very critical. In fact, most of those countries were highlighted as performing very well globally. You notice that they've invested heavily in knowledge management. They insist that actually knowledge must be preserved, knowledge must be respected. In fact, knowledge is rewarded. For those that possess it, they actually get rewarded for the same. So there's actually very, very, very close link. I do agree. Thanks a lot for that comment. Madam Moderator, I wish maybe to confine myself to those few questions, and also probably wish to request that the acting PS maybe can address the issue of the policy call by the Honorable Minister that we should all begin to march according to the marching orders. I thank you, Madam Moderator.
Good, thank you very much. Perhaps even before I come to what the minister said, I want to add on what Director Mayamba said, Moderator, regarding the mindset change. I think it came from one of our colleagues out there. You see, first and foremost, let's look at us in the public sector. Because if you talk of mindset change in the private sector, I'll pick just the bank, the way they operate our colleagues. They are very serious. But on the other hand, when we come in the public sector, we have challenges. And that's why we have the Emoluments Commission. This time around, it is there to ensure that what we earn should be correlated with what we are producing. And that's the mindset change which we want now, even in the mainstream public service. There's need for all of us to ensure that we contribute at individual level to the attainment of the goals in the 8th National Development Plan. How do we do that? Number one, we all have the goals, the objectives, the strategic plans. We have the departmental work plans, individual work plans. You see? So you bring it from the national, ministerial, departmental, sectional, up to individual level. So the call is on supervisors. Ensure that there's that link between what your subordinates are doing and what your superiors are supposed to do. Automatically, you find that people now be reporting for work in time, ensure that they deliver. But if there's a missing link, then we have a serious challenge. And as in HR, we talk of the appraisal system. That appraisal system is not just for confirmations or for promotions. It's supposed to be used on an annual basis to assess whether you are supposed to be retained in the public service or not. It's very clear in the terms and conditions of service. So that's about the mindset change. Yes, we just have to do it. Then there's one who raised the issue of calling on us as a ministry to engage with the industry. I just want to say this. Yes, it's very important. And so far, with the Honorable Minister, Labour Commissioner, we have identified one sector, that's the transport sector. We do realize that there are issues in the transport sector, notwithstanding other sectors. So we have called for an endeavor, a date will be communicated soon, so that we discuss and chart the way forward on how best can we deal with the issues around the transport sector. Then Director Mayamba also talked about education. I'm just happy to inform our colleagues out there that currently the Ministry of Education is reviewing its curriculum. And I was so happy to learn that some of the subjects, of course, they were announced, the minister will announce at an opportune time. They might do away with certain subjects so that we just look at the relevant. Remember, there's that social media which was circulating. Here we have the mines, agriculture, sectors. But to what extent are our learners subjected to this? You see, you find that this is only done at UNZA when one goes under School of Mining. But what about from maybe primary sector, secondary sector? So it's good that our colleagues are thinking like this and we'll support them. So the marching orders from the minister's core, it's on all of us. This productivity, for it to be realized, all of us. And the beauty is the new Dawn government is releasing money according to what you have budgeted for. approved budget, so far as we speak, it is being funded 100%. Gone are the days when people used to have money approved, but it could not be released. So the onus is on all of us to ensure that we deliver according to the key performance indicators. Presidential Delivery Unit is there, and at ministerial level, talking of ourselves here, Minister of Labor and Social Security, we all need to toe the line to ensure that those sectors, those KPIs, we work as a team. And of course, the last is anyone who is standing along the way. The disciplinary code has to be used. It has been launched, it has been revised, so that we deal with those rigidities, which of course we are not able to do in the past. So that's what I can just say. The tools are there, the resources are there, the direction is there, the plans are there. So all we need to do, dear colleagues, is to do our part. Government has done its part in as far as giving us the resources is concerned. So, moderator, for now, I thought I could just end there by emphasizing that we roll our sleeves and do that which we are supposed to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Acting PS and Mr. Mayamba, for responding to the first phase of the questions from our participant. It is actually very interesting to note the support and the kind of debate that the participants are bringing on board today, this morning. So in the second phase of the plenary, I have again 3 questions. I also wish to note and acknowledge Acting PS and Mr. Mayamba that this program is actually being followed by the Secretariat of the Pan-African Productivity Association, and the Secretary General, Mr. Motiba, has also given his remarks pertaining to the discussions today. And this is what he says: a productivity-driven agenda for long-term competitiveness and sustainable growth lies with micro, small, and medium enterprises at the center of everything. What is the ministry doing? I'm sure Mr. Mayamba will be very happy to give some comments on that very important point that has been raised by Mr. Motiba. We are also being followed by our very own that have actually exited the labor market and are productive wherever they are. Mr. Chivunda and Mr. Bernard Chishala are part of the participants. So I go to the next question. Productivity is mainly influenced by equipments, processes, and attitudes. So most of the equipment and processes being used by industry is obsolete. How then shall we attain higher productivity levels? The third question is saying, besides having statistical records, do we have performance benchmarking to establish best practice from most productive countries? The third question, which I think Acting PS has touched on, is coming from Dr. Siyubo from UG, Union of Government Workers, and he's saying that the issue of employee attitude change is actually very critical. I know Acting PS has talked a little bit about this. So in this second phase of our plenary, I'll allow my presenters to make their comments on these 3 questions that have been raised. The issue of obsolete equipments and processes in industry, the issue of small and medium enterprises at the center for long-term competitiveness and sustainable growth, and also the capacity of us having performance benchmarking to establish best practices from most productive countries. My presenters.
Thank you, moderator. First and foremost, I want to thank our SG, who has really given his comment, and we are very grateful for that. We do not take such for granted. Now, regarding the issue to do with obsolete equipment and processes, with regards to processes, there we can safely say yes. We have actually our dear colleagues in productivity department. They have been quite busy going to different enterprises, trying to review their systems and helping them. Yes, we know that they are only here at headquarters. This is why we are engaging Public Service Management Division to ensure that we increase on the numbers. And like Director Mayamba said, we are also using this technology to reach out to so many people. Now, with regards to obsolete equipment, I'm very sure this is timely. We'll be able to pass it on to Ministry of Finance and National Planning and other cabinet office to see how best can this be done. I'm sure you have heard that there are some tax reliefs to certain equipment which comes into the country. So if there's need, and government has seen the need to say we need to bring this equipment so that it will spur economic development, there's no worry within my mind that this can be a welcome move. As I've said earlier on, the purpose of this new Dawn government is to unlock the rigidities. Employee attitude change. I earlier talked about it, and for me, I feel that's where we need to spend our time. And this has started at a higher level now. You remember that when the president, after the cabinet was appointed, there was a serious orientation. From there, it came to permanent secretaries. I want to report right now as I speak, there's a program that we have received from PSMD where all directors, assistant directors, and their equivalents, they have to undergo a change management training, and this has to be done August, September, and it's mandatory. So that's one area of capacity building, just to ensure that we keep on. But above all is what I said earlier on, that we need serious supervisors to do what they are supposed to do. Because training is one thing, but implementing is yet another. So basically what we are saying is supervisors ensure that there are KPIs for each and every employee, and monitor those who are not doing well, sanction them, as simple as that. You know, we need now to look at issues of getting recommendations for demotion, not just promotion. If someone does not deserve to be promoted, recommend for demotion. And we are happy now that the government has decentralized the human resource management committees. This is being done at ministerial level, provincial level, not the Civil Service Commission, where perhaps it was highly centralized, and because of the numbers, it was taking long. But this time, even here where we are, there's a committee, and it sat 2 weeks ago. They were able to substantively promote officers and retire one on medical grounds. So even in discipline, if people are not performing as per expectation, we expect supervisors to do what they are supposed to. If they don't do, again, the whip will be cracked on them, as simple as that. Then, again, the Secretary General talked about us, what is it that we are doing insofar as increasing productivity in our micro, small-scale enterprises. First and foremost, I want to say this. China is one of the developed economies. And whilst we appreciate their civil servants there, and government has recruited civil servants, but most of them are private-driven. And that's the route we are going through, even ourselves. We are saying, yes, we have over 300,000 civil servants. For the very first time, government recruited 30,000 teachers, just in the Ministry of Education. Yes, that was a bigger number in as far as history is concerned at once. But even if that was done, we still have a bigger number out there. So the point is the private sector needs to come on board, seriously so that we grow this economy. So the role of government, apart from, of course, recruiting civil servants, as it were, we are talking about creating an enabling environment so that the private sector can thrive. And so far, we have seen certain policies, policy shift that has been done and yet to be done. So I cannot agree with our Secretary General more than what he has said. The assurance is from our side as the Minister of Labor and Social Security, we are doing our part. One of the issues the cabinet approved in principle to amend the employment code. Right now, as we speak, the roadmap has been done. We are calling upon our dear colleagues, the stakeholders, if you have any issue in the current code, which you feel is a rigidity, please come forward. Then we should be able to address that matter. Apart from that one, we are also reviewing the Factories Act. We are reviewing the Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board Bill, rather Act, because it's already there. The Productivity Bill, as we said earlier on, it's already at Cabinet Office. All this is meant to ensure that we create an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. So, moderator, may I call upon Director Mayamba just to also add on one or two areas. Director.
Thank you very much, Acting Permanent Secretary, for the addressing adequately most of the issues which were raised. I will try and address the issues of micro, small, and medium enterprises, in addition to what the Acting Permanent Secretary has said. Thank you, Mr. Motiba, our Secretary General for the Pan-African Productivity Association, which Zambia is privileged to chair at the moment. And also, you've raised a very important issue that MSMEs actually are the engines of economic growth. They employ the largest number of people in any country. And we are comforted in Zambia by the fact that government has actually set up a dedicated ministry to address the development of the small and medium enterprises. And so through their coordinating role, the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises has galvanized capacities from within government and beyond government to support the small and medium enterprises. And one of the main issues has been to address the impediments that most of them were facing in respect to sources of capital as well as capacity. And that's where we come into the picture. Because as you know, most small and medium enterprises are set up based on the passion of the owners of the enterprises. And usually these owners will be specialized in one area and may not have expertise in the other areas. For instance, a carpenter will put up a carpentry shop and they are skilled in carpentry and may not have any skills in probably managing finances, marketing, etc. And that is why institutions such as the National Productivity Development Department under the ministry, as well as the Kaizen Institute of Zambia, which is also under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, come in very handy. And we do collaborate with our other institutions that support small and medium enterprises, especially in the area of training, in the area of setting up and strengthening of systems. But because of their large number, I must mention that this we do not do just on our own, but we also help provide support to those institutions, especially the associations, that organize and support this particular sector, including those in the informal sector. So we do provide support, capacity building to those institutions as well, for onward support to be rendered to the small and medium enterprises wherever they could be. Also, the issue of whether we have benchmarks to learn from within, again, the Pan-African Productivity Association, which is an association comprised of national productivity organizations on the African continent. We have membership from almost all the regions of the African continent, southern, eastern, northern, western Africa. Does provide a platform for sharing knowledge and practices. And so through this platform, we provide to our member countries examples of what works in other countries, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'll give you an example of the policies. A number of countries now within the Pan-African Productivity Association have developed policies on productivity, and this has been facilitated by way of sharing knowledge amongst ourselves. Those that have gone ahead of us have shared their experiences on how best to develop policies. Even as we are aspiring ourselves to have a fully fledged National Productivity Center, we are also learning from our colleagues who've had National Productivity Centers which have been in existence for a long time. So it does provide that platform, and we're very, very happy to be part and parcel of this very progressive organization. With that said, Madam Moderator, I'll now wish to hand back to you so that we can learn more from our audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think these are very important insights that have been presented to us through the questions that you, our participants, are asking. So I will get straight into the last 3 questions of this session, as we are remaining with only very few minutes before we can close this wonderful conversation. So the first comment that I have is that government needs to implement the demotion policy so that you enhance employee effectiveness, which is very key to serious productivity. I also have another, I'm not calling it a comment, but I think it's a goodwill that is coming from Sylvia Mwansa of SBM Consulting and Coaching. And she says that they are ready to progress this conversation on productivity with us. And they actually have a mindset change process too that can be used to enhance productivity. The third question actually is coming from Genevieve, and she's saying, my concern is on how best employees will manage the process. Well, stakeholder engagement with the unions who manage a large following should be emphasized in all the constituencies. I also want to add some more insights from Sylvia Mansa, who says, efficiency, time management, retirement preparedness, succession planning, and customer service, both internal and external, ending with 3 months practice as monitoring and evaluation. And they are ready to help with the difference and bring the change. So those are our last 3 questions or reflections from our participants, and I'll call upon our presenters to give a reflection or responses to the questions that have been asked by our participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Moderator. First and foremost, may I say thank you, SB, that you are following, Sylvia Mwansa, that you are following, and we are grateful even for that offer, which of course, as a ministry, we are still seriously considering, because we have also done our own analysis. Mindset is very critical. So working with you, we should be able to go around this issue. Regarding demotion policy, I think I did allude to it earlier on, Moderator. All I can assure our colleague who has asked is that now that the Civil Service Commission has decentralized the human resource management to the committees that are anchored at the ministry level, where in our case all directors are members of this committee, and the PS is the responsible officers per Service Commission Act number 10 of 2016. It is within our powers to ensure that we promote people who deserve to be promoted. We also demote people who deserve to be demoted. And for us, we are ready for that. It's not business as usual. When people bring the uppers, we analyze it. We look at it. Does this officer deserve this promotion? If they don't deserve it, we effect this, because it's within our powers to do that. Then Genevieve, thanks, and thank you also, Madam, that you are calling on us to work together with the union, because we do know that you are the bridge, of course, between management and the employees. You come in between. Social dialogue, that is one of the pillars the Minister of Labor and Social Security is always talking about. So we are ready to work with you, and do remember the ZCTU president saying that whenever we are carrying out joint inspections, they are willing to come along so that we continue sensitizing both the employers and the employees. So we are happy for that call, and we are ready to ensure that we come through for that. Moderator, those are the 3 areas which came through. And at this point in time, I feel like you said we were coming to the end. I will call upon, of course, through you, Director Mayamba, in case he wants to add on one or two before we conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Permanent Secretary. And I'm happy on the comments that have been made by one of our productivity practitioners in this country, Madam Silva Mansa. We are very happy that you brought out very pertinent issues. And I'll just pick one of them, which is pre-retirement planning. In fact, in the National Productivity Policy, we've provided for development of a strategy to extend the productive life of older people, because our labor market is in such a way that after retirement, we extract very little value from our citizens because we do not have frameworks that they could still render services to this country. And so as a ministry, we are developing a strategy to extend the productive life of our dear citizens through various ways such as consultancies, even voluntarism, and other forms of support through advisory and other forms of services they could render to the nation. Because, by the way, the country has invested a lot in building their capacities through training and through experience. I'm very happy that you brought that out. And I'm also happy that you are willing to, as you've always been, able to collaborate with us and other institutions that are promoting productivity in this country. You know, my mentor and teacher, Professor Bernard Shala, who I think is following this program, always quoted the former president of Botswana, His Excellency Kate Masire, who had once said that productivity improvement is like boiling the sea. And so imagine if you are to boil the sea, it means you need a lot of people to light up the fire at different portions of the sea. And this will have to be done consistently for the water in the sea to actually boil. So the role of improving productivity in this country should not just be left to the Ministry of Labor or to government. In other words, all of us have to play a part. So we're very glad and happy when we hear our colleagues in the private sector coming on board to work and collaborate with government to enhance the productivity of this country. I thought I should mention that and therefore make this call that as we go forward, we'll be looking forward to collaborating with all those institutions, both in the public and the private sector, including individuals who would want to come on board for us to be able to boil this huge sea. So the harvest is plenty, I should say. We all need to put our hands on the plow and work together. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much. It has been a very wonderful discussion on how we can mainstream productivity in all sectors of the economy. I want to thank our presenters, the Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, who has given us marching orders on how we can improve productivity and given us the zeal to all work in a concerted manner to improve the levels of productivity which have been cited low in this country. I also want to thank the Acting Permanent Secretary, Mr. Zakaria Luhanga, who is very busy but found it very important to be with us on this very important subject of productivity. I also want to thank the Director, National Productivity Development Department, who is also a Pan-African Productivity Association President, who has joined us and given us different perspectives on productivity globally and in the region. It has been a very wonderful discussion, and I think we have learned quite a lot. As I said earlier on when we were starting, this platform is meant to enhance networking and get expert views on how we can mainstream productivity in all sectors of the economy. And this program has actually highlighted policy linkages to productivity improvement. I want to thank you much more, you the participants that have taken time to join us today to participate in this program. There's a lot that we need to discuss and bring on board as we mainstream productivity in this country. Like it has been said, productivity is not an end in itself, but improving labor productivity, that is the output per worker, is actually what is going to sustain our improvement in terms of quality of life. So, from me, from the National Productivity Development Department, please subscribe to this channel and also click on the notification button for the next presentation on productivity next month on the 5th of September. I wish to see you there, and please sell the message. Thank you very much.
My phone.